story. So this morning I tried to play myself and put on these pants that did not fit me. And so I am rocking these jeans like they're worth $1 million. Good morning. Good morning. I'm honored to be delivering the keynote address at Lebanon Valley College's 3rd annual Women's Leadership Symposium. I would like to thank Ms. Venus Rich. Thank you. Thank you to the Division of Students Affairs for hosting this event, and to the students in the planning committee and faculty members. I would like to especially thank an outstanding student, Arielis Vasquez, for insisting that the school bring me to speak. Thank you, distinguished guests and future leaders. I'm a little taller than this mic. Is there a way to... Is this obstructing? You guys can see me? Woman is the master of her thought, the molder of her character, and the maker and shaper of her condition, environment, and destiny. As a being of power, intelligence, and love, she was made of her own thoughts. Woman holds the key to every situation and contains within herself that transforming and regenerating agency by which she may make herself what she wills. Quote from As a Woman Thinketh. She was made of her own thoughts, containing within herself that transforming and regenerating agency by which she may make herself what she wills. What are the messages we tell ourselves? How do we see ourselves? What negative messages are we internalizing? Are we speaking up for the things that matter to us? I have often reflected on the ways I have held myself back. What Sheryl Sandberg calls in her book, Leaning In and Sitting at the Table, I'm calling breathing in and knowing a woman's worth. What is our worth? And are we taking our rightful place at a table usually reserved for men? I was working for Bacardi USA, located in Miami, Florida, and was driving on Interstate 95 when the first plane crashed into the Twin Towers of my beloved New York City, September 11, 2001. This moment was the first time I began to question my worth, my value, and my contributions to the world, and more importantly, really thinking about what legacy I would be leaving my daughter, Courtney, had I been one of the thousands who died that devastating day. I began questioning everything, my worth, my place, what I was doing in my life, and where I was headed. After September 11th, I began desperately reevaluating. I decided that what I wanted most was to leave Courtney with something that she would always have. I decided I would write her my memoirs. 2 weeks after September 11th, I started reading all kinds of things about writing, how to publish a book, how to write a memoir. I had no intention on publishing it. I had no intention of sharing it with the world, but I did want to give her a gift. I wanted her to know where her mother came from, and everything that made me had I died, right? And so I'm reading a book called Writing from Personal Experience, and in the text I started to discover that every person that you meet, every experience that you have is a source of inspiration, and everything is material. Eavesdropping, train rides, standing in line in the supermarket. And so when I read the line, everything in your personal experience can be a story, I realized, wow, I'm a writer. I'm a writer. And I looked over at my daughter, who was reading a Nancy Drew book to the right of me, and I said, I'm a writer. She's like, I know, Mommy, you're going to write me a book. I said, no. You don't understand. I'm a writer. She's like, I know, Mommy, you're going to write a book. We're going to be famous. You're going to buy a big house with a McDonald's in it and a Carvel. She would get it. But in that moment, I understood what my life calling was. After I discovered my purpose, that it was to write, I immediately began all the preparations to move to New York City. Everyone thought I was crazy. I was being warned against it, especially after 9/11. People were leaving New York City, and here I was running towards it. Nothing was stopping me. I landed a job at a PR agency in New York and resigned from my position at Bacardi. I told anyone who would listen that I was leaving to pursue my dream of being a writer. When the job I landed fell through, I wasn't sure what I'd do. I'd made so many plans, I was devastated. The vice president of human resources at Bacardi called me to see if I was okay. Alicia, what are you going to do? What's your plan now? As I wiped away the tears, I said, I'm going to New York. I'm still going. I'm moving forward anyway. To which she responded, good. I'm happy to hear that. It's important to keep your commitments. Author of The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron writes, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative or creation, there is one elementary truth. The ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. I was scared. But I had made a commitment to myself and to my daughter and proceeded anyway. That would be the first time I would really know the magnitude of my worth and all that I am made of. In July 2002, 1 year from the date I owned the title writer, I packed up a U-Haul and drove to New York City. Without a job, without money, just a dream, passion, motivation, confidence, and faith. That I would land a dream job in publishing. 1 month later, I was working for the Vice President of Corporate Sales at Condé Nast, one of the largest magazine conglomerates in this country. And it was also where I would meet my mentor, KB, the Executive Director of Creative Services. The Vice President didn't want to hear about any issues pertaining to my daughter, making it clear that there was no room for excuses, favoritism, and that all family matters should be left at the door. KB, however, was very interested and supportive and nurturing of all aspects of my life. This would be the moment where I began silencing my voice and not speaking up about what I needed to be able to excel in my position. This was where I learned I could not ask for help. She made a point to express to me that she never wanted to hear excuses about why I'd be late or taking days off or having anything to do with my responsibilities as a mother. Basically, what I understood was, Courtney better never get sick, because I might lose this job. That morning, my daughter told me she wasn't feeling well. We got on the 1 train in New York City. It was a 3-train ride from Queens, where we lived, to Manhattan, and as we approached the stop, she's telling me that she's not feeling well. She throws up at the train station, humiliated, mortified. I said, baby, are you sure you want to go to school? She said, yeah, Mom, I don't want you to get fired. I don't want you to get fired. No, I'm going to be fine, I'm going to be fine. I walked her to school, got to my office, and got the call I was dreading. Miss Santos, your daughter has a fever of 102. She's throwing up all over the place. We need you to come and get her. How was I going to tell this boss that I had to leave to take care of my daughter? After feeling sick myself, I went in and I said, I gotta go. I will make up the time. I will stay late every day for 2 weeks, but I have to take my daughter. When I picked her up, we got on the train because we didn't have money to take a cab back to Queens, so she had to truck it that 2-hour train ride home. We get in a cab in Queens to go to the doctor's, and I'm crying in hysterics. It's the first time she'd ever seen me cry. She was about 9 years old now. And I looked at her, I said, you know what, New York is too hard. Maybe we should go back to Florida. My mom's there, my dad's there, your aunts are there, your uncle. We don't have to do this is too hard. And she looked at me and she said, no, Mom, this is your dream. You came here to be a writer. You can do this. I couldn't believe she said that. She was more worried about me being fired and supportive of my dreams. So we stayed. And that would be the moment where I learned to just be quiet. And grateful I even had a job, especially one of that magnitude. I shifted gears. It was time to compete, make a mark, and attempts at standing out. I was meeting regularly with my mentor about career advancement, negotiating salaries. We began to talk about how unfulfilled I was at work, and he shared with me the importance of being in a position that felt challenging and one that I would be passionate about. We talked about me finding an editorial position at one of the magazines. November 4th, 2003 would be the last time I spoke with him. It was about 3:30 p.m. on that November 4th, and he had a meeting, and I buzzed his office, and there was no answer. I got up and I knocked on his door. There was no answer. I went to my desk and I grabbed the key, opened it, and there he was. He had his head on his arms, looked like he was napping. I went over to him, Kevin, I nudged him. Then I touched his pulse, nothing. I touched his neck, he was cold. I found my mentor, no longer breathing. His heart stopped in his office. And the very next day, like clockwork, it was business as usual, and I needed to be unaffected, focused, and ready to work. We are conditioned that in order to be seen as equal to men, women must be unemotional, unaffected, and prepared to get the job done. And that's what I did. I went right into his office, packed his belongings, and went right back to work. I never asked for what I needed. I never spoke up. I did not take a leave of absence. I wanted to prove that I was just as good as everyone else and that I did not need any special treatment. Women are told that if we speak up, we are somehow complaining, too emotional or weak. If we disagree, we're nasty. I'm thinking about Hillary Clinton in this moment, and a specific image that was captured on television where she had become emotional while campaigning in New Hampshire in 2008. She was asked the question, how do you get out of the door every day? Her eyes began to well up, and she responded, I just don't want us to fall back as a nation. Some male voters saw this moment as hysterical. Female voters felt she was finally vulnerable, that she finally showed a human side, being questioned for her strength. A man who is direct, driven, determined, and sure of himself does not often have his motives questioned. What messages are we sending here? Hillary, whose track record has consisted of being a first lady, a mother, a wife, a head of state, a woman with countless achievements and accolades, holding one of the most important roles of this nation. She, a woman, completely qualified, yet constantly having to prove herself, and one day will be the president of this nation. The day my mentor, that's right, yes, yes. The day my mentor died would be the last time I wrote. It became too much for me even to enter his office day after day for a year. I needed a change. I met with the vice president of corporate sales and told her that I would be looking for another position. I landed a job at Glamour magazine and then moved on to the editorial side of a new magazine that was launching. I was working in the editorial department and believed that finally I'd be able to do some writing. However, all of my attempts at being proactive, requesting more challenges, more work, and staying late were met with resistance and excuses. We have someone else doing that. Maybe next time. I wasn't being challenged. Yes, I was finally working at a magazine where I was sure I'd be writing my first feature, yet that was never going to happen. In a dream, I heard my mentor whisper, get up, it's time to write. I hadn't written for a year. And I got up and I got beautiful. I looked fierce. My hair, my mane was like down to here. My hair was out. I had makeup on, perfection. I put on these strappy heels, this A-line skirt, this button-down blouse, all my jewelry. I started working on the memoir again that very day until I got to the office. When I got to the office, my boss at the time, the editor-in-chief, was badgering me, belittling me. She didn't respect me. I felt the power slipping from my fingertips and began to feel completely defeated. I was convinced that I would never really be seen in this position. I would never excel. And here is where I would meet my first belief. In an article published in the New York Times by Mickey Meese entitled Backlash, Women Bullying Women at Work, Meese states, it's probably no surprise that most of these bullies are men. In a survey by the Workplace Bullying Institute, an advocacy group, a good 40% of bullies are women. During my lunch break, I took my daughter to our world-renowned cafeteria known for its architecture. It was the place to be seen, the who's who of publishing, Vogue, Lucky, GQ, Details, The New Yorker. We sat in a vacant office cubicle. She was slurping these Chinese noodles. I had no appetite. I started crying. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't. She looked at me and said, then don't. Mommy, if you're so unhappy, quit. I said, oh, that's like the wisest thing anyone could ever have told me. I got up, marched over to the editor's office, knocked on her door. She was in an editorial meeting, asked her to step outside, and I said, I can't do this. Took my purse, grabbed my daughter, and we left. I'll never really understand why that specific boss didn't nurture my talents and provide me with an opportunity to achieve excellence, but what I did understand was that if all of my attempts at leaning in were being met with no's, then I needed to remember my worth. It didn't matter to me anymore, the importance of job security and 401ks, my self-worth and sense of self I valued much more. Unfortunately, most of the injustices I've experienced in the workplace have been by women. In an email from another magazine editor, he wrote her, "Good she's leaving. He didn't like her anyway." What was it exactly that she didn't like about me? What was it that I was outspoken? That I asked questions, that I was proactive and assertive, that I was Latina, that I was ambitious and knew what I wanted and was creative and had ideas? Or was it that I was a woman and to her I was the competition? Did she think that by helping a woman she would lose out on opportunities? We are groomed at early ages to feel as though we shouldn't trust women because they are likely to betray us, and that women are the enemy. They are our competition, withholding information or resources that might be beneficial to someone else. What I've come to discover is that there is no competition for what you are doing. There's no competition for what you are destined to be. There's no competition for what is meant to be yours. We must celebrate women's achievements and successes and encourage one another. When will we stop waiting for an invitation and recognize our worth? When will we stop asking permission to speak up? When will we stop playing nice? When will we speak up about our thoughts and ideas without the fear of looking stupid? When will we know the truth that we are all worthy? In preparing for this Women's Leadership Symposium, I decided to have a Skype conversation with my daughter who is studying in Istanbul. I was curious about the kinds of things she's facing as she prepares to enter the workforce. She's a senior at Syracuse. I asked her what she thinks her future looks like. I wanted to know what some of her concerns were as she begins her search for a career. I wondered what she believes life will look like for her after graduation. I wanted to know what her greatest fears were, and she replied, that I won't be good enough. That I won't be good enough at what I do. I won't be good enough to stand up. I won't be as smart as the other college graduates applying for the same jobs. Then I asked my daughter if she worries about competing against men, to which she replied, I don't necessarily worry about men. I worry about competing against people. Did you know 81% of 10-year-old girls are afraid of being fat? Women are routinely degraded in everything from pop culture to casual conversation. A girl is bullied every 7 minutes in the schoolyard, playground, stairwell, classroom, or bathroom. 57% of rock music videos and hip-hop music videos and Latino music videos portray women as sex objects, victims, unintelligent, or in a condescending way. 57% of women are targeted by workplace bullying. Women are devalued in the workplace, making only 76% of their male peers' salaries. Girls are more likely than boys to be victims of cyberbullying. Women make up nearly 51% of the population, but hold just 16% of seats in Congress. Those statistics are from the Confidence Coalition organization. I began to think about where she could have gotten the message that she isn't good enough. I began to question myself and the young woman I have raised, who is confident, smart, articulate, ambitious, brilliant, talented, powerful, creative, and beautiful. We're talking about a young woman who has made the dean's list at Syracuse University, an incredible writer and speaker, yet for some reason she believes that she may not be good enough, that her hard work may not be enough. Where could she have received the message that she isn't good enough? What are we teaching the young women who are just entering college, those who are graduating and entering careers? What are we telling them that they are capable of? It saddened me to hear my daughter question her own abilities. We as women are constantly underestimating ourselves and devaluing our work. You are enough. Fast forward. I was terrified when I left the corporate sector for good in 2008. I left my stability, job security, health insurance, and my daughter when I took on the task of being the head writer and producer for Afro-Latinos, The Untaught Story. Talk about questioning worth and value. I was leaving a position where I was close to making 6 figures to travel around the world, making no real money, yet investigating and writing about people, societies, and cultures. I traveled to over 18 countries. There is an immediate guilt that comes over many women when we put career before family. Women are not supposed to do that, especially if you're a Dominican woman who has been conditioned and groomed to be someone's wife or mother. It is completely taboo to pursue one's passion. The word is not even in our vocabulary unless it refers to a passion for domesticity. We should be passionate about finding and having a man, passionate about our families. My decision to follow my passion and accept my role in Afro-Latinos was met with some resistance from the entire family, except for my daughter, who was 16 years old then. She was the one who really supported me and taught me about my own worth. She believed in me, she encouraged me, and supported me by telling me the many ways I'd be able to contribute to the world. She taught me that in taking this opportunity, all that I was giving to myself, I was giving to her. I was proving to her and myself that I could do this. And in this way, I have given her the greatest gift of leading by example. The ability to wake up every single day and love what I do and do what I love. My experience with the film has brought with it many levels of sexism or machismo, a sentiment is practiced where males are superior to women in Latin America. I was traveling with my business partner and executive director of the film, Renzo Davia, to the Dominican Republic, and we were interviewing a leading anthropologist and scholar on the African diaspora. And once the interview was done and I walked to the museum, it was a museum in Santiago de Caballeros, in the Dominican Republic. I realized that I hadn't taken a picture with him after the interview, so I went to his office. And I asked his assistant to please get him, and I said, I want to take a picture with you. Do you have time? He said, sure. He said, where's your husband? My husband. He thought Renzo, the cameraman, was my husband. Here, this academic, highly intellectual, well-published. He couldn't for a moment fathom that I could be a woman in power, that I could be Renzo's boss. I'm the one who did the interview. I'm the one that conducted all the research. I'm the one that read all of his books, but Renzo was my husband? Yeah, I was in disbelief. He could not see me as his equal. Yet, he could not see me at all. And on this journey, I would be met, unfortunately, with many experiences like this one. I was in Colon, Panama, interviewing the superintendent of public schools in Colon. And during the interview, I would ask him a question, and he would refer his answers here to Renzo on the camera, not even making eye contact. Finally, I had to move so that he could see me. So how do we stand out? How do we assert ourselves? How do we demand the same respect and recognition given to men and so few women? Every opportunity we face is an opportunity to put into practice some of the ways we can change how we are devalued, by expressing to the world what we will not tolerate. It is a constant practice of changing the messages we tell ourselves and what we believe. I took a deep breath, leaned in, and bowed out of corporate America 5 years ago and have not looked back. I believe that I had provided my daughter with enough tools to take care of herself, and in turn she reflects back to me the importance of pursuing my dreams and my passion. I know that I am enough. Now it's time for her and for all of you to know that same truth. We can have all we desire. We just need to really speak it and live it and not be afraid to demand what we want. It's feeling the fear and moving forward anyway. If you're afraid to ask for raises, practice anyway. If you're afraid to speak up, raise your hand and speak anyway. If you're afraid to take a leap, jump anyway. If you're afraid to negotiate for what you want, rehearse with family and friends and do it anyway. What do you believe? Do you believe you deserve success? Do you believe you deserve a raise? Do you believe you are talented? What you believe carries such power. Let's begin by changing what we believe and remembering our worth.